On a quiet New Year's Eve in South Texas, a family's serene walk turned into a nightmare. As they strolled along a jogging trail, they stumbled upon a scene that would haunt them forever. 24-year-old Lauren Bump was brutally murdered in a shocking act of violence. Who could commit such a horrific crime? Dive into the chilling story of Lauren Bump's murder, the bizarre trial of her attacker, and the legacy of a life tragically cut short. This is a tale of terror, justice, and enduring memory. Before starting, subscribe to True Crime Sam. Your support helps us continue bringing these important cases to light. Our thoughts and deepest condolences are with Lauren Bump's family and loved ones as they navigate this tragic loss. Lauren has a reputation for being a caring and lovely person. She was an extroverted, gregarious person who had little trouble making friends. Lauren had a passion for trying new things and seeing new locations. She was assured and self-assured without being haughty. Lauren was close to her parents and siblings and hailed from a loving household. She was an alumna of Texas University in San Antonio. Lauren had a passion for her work as a teacher. She liked to read, go on hikes, and hang out with her loved ones. Lauren was always willing to offer assistance and listened with empathy. She always strived to see the best in people and had an optimistic attitude toward life. Others respected Lauren for being authentic to herself. Because Lauren trusted others too much, she occasionally placed herself in risky circumstances. She occasionally behaved without fully considering her actions, since she was impetuous. Christian Bautista, the prime suspect in the murder of Lauren Bump, presents a complex and disturbing figure. At 31, Bautista's life was marred by a series of criminal activities, from drug offenses to aggravated robbery. Described as having a creepy demeanor and unsettling tendencies, his behavior was often erratic, even within the confines of a courtroom. Bautista's past includes a history of ties to the Mexican mafia, further complicating his already troubled background. His actions leading up to and following Lauren's murder paint a portrait of a man deeply entwined in a cycle of violence and instability, culminating in a crime that shocked and devastated the community. Christian Bautista was Lauren's lover. Bautista has a long criminal history, including spending time in a Texas prison and federal custody for possibly entering the country illegally. Christian and Lauren first connected in 2012 and soon afterward began dating. Friends and family described their relationship as turbulent and rocky. Reports of abuse and domestic violence occurred during their partnership. Lauren's relatives and friends stated that she loved Christian and wanted to see their relationship through despite the difficulties. In their relationship, Christian was renowned for being possessive and domineering. Lauren had made multiple attempts to terminate the relationship, but Christian consistently convinced her to stick with him. Christian Bautista had previously abused Lauren at home, and their relationship was characterized by control and possessiveness. Christian was well known for being incredibly possessive and jealous, which frequently resulted in conflicts and run-ons. Christian might have felt intimidated by Lauren's efforts to break up with him, or by her increasing independence. Over time, their relationship became more violent and abusive, which finally resulted in Lauren's murder. It's possible that Lauren didn't have a support network to help her leave the violent relationship or feel alone. Lauren found it challenging to escape the imbalance in their relationship caused by Christian's possessiveness and domineering conduct. These things added up to the point where Christian killed Lauren out of wrath. On New Year's Eve of 2013, 24-year-old Lauren Bump was found brutally murdered at OPI Chernobyl Park. On New Year's Eve, the peaceful ambiance of South Texas was shattered by a horrific crime. Edward and Sierra Wagner, accompanied by their young son, decided to visit OPI Chernobyl Park, known for its tranquil jogging trails. The family had just spent time at the playground and was making their way back to their car when they stumbled upon a scene of utter devastation. As they walked along the jogging trail, they discovered the body of 24-year-old Lauren Bump. She was found face down on the path, her body covered in blood. Edward Wagner was the first to spot her and was immediately struck by the sheer horror of the situation. I was kind of in shock when I saw it because it didn't seem real. he later testified. He noted the blood and the visible signs of a violent assault, which led him to call 911 urgently. Sierra Wagner, who had been the first to check on Lauren, found that she was beyond help. "I couldn't feel a pulse," she said, describing her actions as she tried to check for breathing. What she saw next was deeply disturbing. Lauren's body had been viciously mutilated, having been stabbed more than 20 times. The brutal nature of the attack was evident, and Sierra's horror was palpable as she witnessed the gruesome aftermath. Police said Bump's death was a random killing, sparking fear in San Antonio's running community. Runners, joggers, and walkers were urged to take a partner when out on public park trails. Pictured. Friends and supporters participate a 1-mile silent run in memory of Lauren Bump at OPI Chernobyl Park, Sunday, Yonder 5, 2014. Around 5:30 p.m., Bump's body was discovered. Earlier that evening, the Wagners had passed a man who appeared out of place in the park. Sierra had remarked to Edward that the man looked strange and even made a dark joke saying he resembled a serial rapist. This man, who would later be identified as Christian Bautista, was the last person seen near Lauren before her death. Bautista's unsettling presence and subsequent actions would link him to the murder in the most chilling way. Bautista's arrest revealed a grim connection to the crime. Evidence uncovered included Lauren's blood found on his clothes and a testimony from his roommate, Ryan O'Shea, who reported that Bautista had recently acquired a combat knife and confessed to disposing of it after Lauren's death. This knife was believed to be the murder weapon. The combination of these disturbing elements pointed to Bautista as the perpetrator of this senseless and brutal act. The investigation revealed that Bautista had a history of criminal behavior and ties to the Mexican mafia, which added to the terror surrounding the case. His erratic behavior during his trial, including bizarre courtroom antics and strange outbursts, only intensified the sense of dread surrounding him. On July 29, 2014, Christian Ivan Bautista made a pre-trial appearance in court. Before being found guilty of robbery, Bautista, also known as Plex, had been arrested nearly yearly since turning 19 in 2003. The majority included drug-related offenses. He served a 9-month prison sentence for criminal mischief in Travis County. Although Bautista's lawyer has admitted that his client is creepy and behaves strangely, he has also pointed out that this is not against the law. On Monday, January 25th, the trial of Bautista began with testimony. He has strained constantly, murmured, groped, and looked at multiple women in court, which has led the judge to chastise him for being a disruption. He once jabbed his tongue at a witness who recognized him. Just a few days before Bump passed away, Christian Bautista's roommate gave him a combat knife as a Christmas present, according to testimony that was presented on Monday, February 1st, 2016. He informed the jury that when he inquired about the whereabouts of the knife, Bautista said, "I stuck some BWO and had to get rid of it." The prosecution presented evidence that Lauren's blood was found on Bautista's clothing, and witnesses testified against him. After Christian Bautista's defense team neglected to call any witnesses and contended that the prosecution had not proven their case, the jury on Tuesday convicted him guilty of murder in the stabbing death of Lauren Bump on New Year's Eve of 2013. During the final statements, defense lawyer Tim Molina reminded the jury that although Bautista had strange conduct, it did not prove him guilty of murder. After visiting her home in San Antonio after college, Bautista went for a run at OPI Chernobyl Park, where she was found guilty of killing Bump, 24. Only a few days after Bump's death was discovered, Bautista, who is now 31 years old, was charged in connection with the stabbing. Prosecutor Wendy McClellan listed all of the witnesses who saw Bautista that day at the park, including those who saw him sitting near the spot on a trail where Bump's body was discovered, in her closing arguments. "Ask the jury not to let him off for murder," McClellan pleaded. Although Bump hailed from a decent family, Molina emphasized that Bautista's peculiar behavior was the only reason he became noticed so soon. He blamed the news media and San Antonio police for concentrating their attention on him at the expense of other potential suspects. Although Bump hailed from a decent family, Molina emphasized that Bautista's peculiar behavior was the only reason he became noticed so soon. He blamed the news media and San Antonio police for concentrating their attention on him at the expense of other potential suspects. In addition, he alleged that witnesses who had put Bautista in the park that day had embellished and added facts, and that runners had entered the inquiry and agitated others. Additionally, he mentioned how social media was used to spread the idea that Bautista was guilty before the case was ever brought. Molina informed the jury that there was not much substantial evidence, such as a weapon or article of clothing, that linked Bautista to Bump's demise. People who say they saw Christians in the area are the most common reports, Molina added. A specialist testified on Monday that Bump and Bautista's DNA could not be excluded from a t-shirt and some underwear that Bautista had on. In her closing remarks to the jury, lead prosecutor Mary Green was even more forceful. "This is a match," she declared, gesturing to the t-shirt and underpants and claiming that Bump's blood was present in the DNA on Bautista's innermost layer of clothing. Bexar County Deputy Medical Examiner Dr. Rajesh Khannan reported that Bump had 27 severe stab wounds or slashes on her torso. Green called the crime sadistic, senseless, predatory. "I find it heartbreaking that the last face this lovely woman saw was the face of evil." Despite his attempts to deflect and discredit the proceedings, the evidence was overwhelming. Christian Bautista was ultimately found guilty of Lauren Bump's murder and sentenced to life in prison, bringing some measure of justice to a case that left a community reeling from its brutality. Judge Jefferson Moore issued a warning before Bautista's trial began. During the competency hearing, Moore claimed that Bautista had exposed himself and was chatting with the female prosecutor indecently. When Bautista was led into the courtroom by deputies during the normal trial, he was groaning. He regarded women with intent and bared his teeth to a witness who had recognized him. Although Bautista's lawyer claimed it wasn't against the law, he described his client as odd and scary. Ryan O'Shea, Bautista's roommate, testified during his trial. They lived together in a Northwest Side mobile home. Just a few days before Lauren's death, O'Shea claimed to have given Bautista an 8-inch fighting knife. I inquired as to the condition of the knife. "I got some expletive stuck, and I had to get rid of it," he stated. When O'Shea learned of Lauren's passing, he went to the police and reported what Bautista had done. At first, he disregarded the remark. In 2016, Bautista's trial commenced, and he was declared guilty of killing Lauren. He received a life sentence with the possibility of release after 30 years. A jury convicted Bautista guilty of Lauren's murder after considering the testimony of several witnesses and the discovery of her blood on Bautista's clothing. When Lauren's brother Ryan discussed the significance of the guilty decision to their family, Lauren's relatives broke down in tears. Lauren may not be physically with us anymore, but we have no doubt that she felt and is not feeling any agony. He attempted to steal something great from our planet. She is overjoyed. He is a bad man, and evil never triumphs, Ryan Bump stated. She was here with us today when justice was carried out. Not a single response from Bautista. It was discovered during the trial's sentencing phase that Bautista had connections to the Mexican mafia and had been arrested several times, almost yearly since he was 19. When he was found guilty of Lauren's murder, he was 31. After completing 30 years, he will be eligible for parole. He was given a life sentence. Additionally, $10,000 was fined to Bautista for his behavior throughout the trial. This chapter in the arduous process of attempting to construct a life without our beloved Lauren comes to an end with today's verdict. No judgment or penalty could ever make up for what we have lost. We'll keep concentrating on how amazing our Lauren was and how she demonstrated God's love for everyone by walking so closely to Him. No wicked deed can mute God's love. This is the reason she will always be remembered and why her life has affected so many people. At OPI Chernobyl Park, friends, family, and neighbors came together to commemorate Lauren's life 1 year after her murder. They ran a mile in silence for her and let out balloons. According to family members, T-shirts supporting Lauren's Memorial Foundation, which supports missionary medical groups in Guatemala, were also manufactured. It allows us to continue sharing her life and her love for everyone, as well as the love she had for everyone. And since she is still with us, I believe it's just a way for us to carry on living her life. Therefore, she isn't truly gone. Lauren's closest friend, Gabriela Jimenez, stated, Christian Bautista, Lauren Bump's boyfriend, killed her, and it had a big effect on the neighborhood. The young woman's callous murder left the neighborhood in shock and grief. Concerns over domestic abuse and violence were aroused by the tragedy, and many people were afraid for their safety, as well as the safety of their loved ones. The neighborhood came together to provide assistance and sympathies to Lauren's family and friends. The event brought to light the significance of educating the public about domestic abuse and violence, as well as the necessity of victim support services. The incident made the community pause and consider its beliefs around gender, relationships, and violence. Calls for action against domestic violence and abuse, including more financing for support services and legislative changes, were sparked by the incident. Memorial services were held in Lauren's honor, and her story's influence continued to carry on her legacy. In an attempt to mend and overcome the trauma, the incident set off a process of community healing. The town was profoundly affected by Lauren Bump's murder, which acted as a spur for development and transformation. The tragic and painful Lauren Bump case serves as a stark reminder of the terrible effects of abuse and domestic violence. A community was left in shock and sadness when Lauren's life was cruelly taken by the person she loved and trusted. May Lauren's memory serve as a constant source of motivation for us to build a more caring and secure environment for everybody. Do subscribe to our channel True Crime Sam and hit the bell icon. Please don't hesitate to ask further questions or bring up any things you'd want to talk about. Keep yourself safe, and let's collaborate to build a more sympathetic and encouraging community for all.